Welcome to the XFO Intelligence Podcast, the Family Office Complex Q series, where we tackle the most complex business questions using deep augmented thinking. Today's question comes from the heart of family office governance. As family offices formalize their structures, how do they codify the family's values, philanthropy, sustainability, education, into the investment mandate, without creating restrictive handcuffs for the investment team? Let's dive into what we call the living mandate, harmonizing family values and investment alpha. For multi-generational family offices, the investment mandate is more than a legal document. It is the constitution of the family's financial future. Yet there's a persistent governance paradox that plagues these institutions. In the effort to codify deeply held values, families often inadvertently construct rigid frameworks that stifle the very investment agility required to preserve wealth across generations. The traditional approach treats values as constraints, binary screens that exclude sectors, rigid quotas that mandate allocation, and static rules that freeze decision-making. This creates a friction-heavy environment where investment teams operate as compliance officers rather than capital allocators. The result? A fragmented portfolio, missed opportunities, and a gradual erosion of trust between the family principals and their advisors. So what's the solution? Family offices must evolve from a model of static compliance to one of dynamic optimization. The goal is not to remove values from the investment process, but to embed them as drivers of utility rather than barriers to entry. Let me share the key insights from our Deep Augmented Thinking analysis. First, redefine the objective with a blended utility function. The fundamental error in traditional mandates is treating financial return and values alignment as competing objectives. In reality, capital is fungible energy deployed to generate utility. For a family office, utility is a composite of financial security, wealth growth, and psychic return, values fulfillment. Governance frameworks should optimize for total utility rather than maximizing return subject to constraints. This means shifting from a pass-fail screening process to a weighted decision matrix. When evaluating an opportunity, the investment committee should assess both financial potential and values alignment, applying weights that reflect the family's current priorities. This approach grants the investment team discretion to make trade-offs. A deal with exceptional financial prospects but moderate values alignment might be acceptable if it balances a separate allocation with high values impact but lower financial yield. Second, implement structural architecture through segmentation. One of the most effective ways to preserve flexibility is to acknowledge that not all capital serves the same purpose. Consider capital segmentation, dividing the portfolio into distinct tranches with different utility functions. A core perpetuity tranche might prioritize financial resilience and market rate returns, integrating values only where they're financially material, such as ESG risk mitigation. A separate mission tranche can be allocated specifically for impact investments, where the family consciously accepts concessionary returns in exchange for higher values alignment. But here's the critical point. Structural segmentation only works if the governance logic is consistent across all levels of the organization. The logic used to balance values and returns at the macro level must mirror the logic used at the transaction level. This fractal consistency ensures that the investment team is never caught between conflicting signals. Third, embrace governance as a fluid system. Governance documents are often treated as static stone tablets, written once and rarely revisited. Yet values are dynamic, evolving with each generation, and market regimes are constantly shifting. Effective governance should behave like a fluid system rather than a rigid structure. Under normal conditions, capital should flow freely, with the investment team granted broad discretion. However, the system must possess the ability to solidify instantly around core, non-negotiable principles. Rather than maintaining a long list of excluded industries, the mandate might specify that capital flows freely unless an investment violates a core identity principle. Upon such a trigger, the governance mechanism hardens, blocking or recalling the capital. This reduces daily friction while ensuring red lines are respected. Fourth, make the cost of values explicit. A critical breakdown in family office governance occurs when the financial cost of values alignment remains invisible. When a portfolio underperforms, families often blame the investment team's competence rather than recognizing the opportunity cost of their own constraints. The investment team must provide explicit concessionary reporting, regularly quantifying the impact of values constraints on the portfolio. When the family sees the price tag of their values in real time, they can make informed decisions. This transforms values alignment from a source of conflict into a budgetary decision. Fifth, prevent the legacy trap. As family offices mature, they face the risk of values viscosity. Once capital is deployed into values-aligned investments, it often becomes sticky. Investment teams may hesitate to divest from underperforming impact assets for fear of appearing to abandon the family's mission. Governance frameworks must include sunset clauses and performance hurdles for all allocations, including impact sleeves. Values alignment should not grant immunity from financial discipline. This ensures the portfolio remains healthy and capital is recycled into more effective opportunities. Sixth, optimize governance velocity. The speed at which a family office can make decisions is a competitive advantage. However, values mandates often introduce bottlenecks, particularly when unanimity is required. Requiring 100% consensus often leads to deployment paralysis. Consider moving from unanimous consent to supermajority voting for values mandates. Additionally, structural tools such as series partnerships can allow dissenting family members to opt out of specific initiatives without blocking the entire office. Finally, implement an adaptive review cycle. The mandate must be designed to evolve. Governance should include a formal adaptive review cycle. Financial performance and risk parameters might be reviewed quarterly, but the values framework itself should be revisited annually or upon major family events. This review should recalibrate the weights assigned to financial versus values objectives. By institutionalizing this reflection, the family office ensures the mandate remains a living document that reflects current reality rather than a historical artifact. So here's the conclusion. The challenge of codifying family values is not a problem of compliance, but of design. When values are treated as rigid walls, they fragment the investment network and reduce resilience. When they're treated as gravitational forces, drawing capital toward purpose while allowing for flow, they enhance the system's coherence. By optimizing for total utility, segmenting capital strategically, making costs explicit, and designing governance for adaptability, family offices can resolve the tension between legacy and growth. The result is a living mandate, one that honors the family's past without compromising its future, empowering investment teams to pursue alpha with the confidence that they are serving the full spectrum of the family's ambitions. In this model, values don't restrict the hand that invests, they guide the eye that sees opportunity. If you found this analysis valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to the XFO Intelligence Podcast channel. And if you have a complex business problem that needs solving using our Deep Augmented Thinking method, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at xfointelligence@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep thinking deeper.